In this video, we're going to talk about scalar multiplication. Now, a scalar is just a number. Okay, for example, like 5 or -3, those are scalars. A matrix would not be a scalar. Okay, and we're going to talk about what's called scalar multiplication, and this is not the same thing as matrix multiplication. In a future video, we'll talk about matrix multiplication. That's when you take two matrices and you multiply them together. Scalar multiplication, you take a scalar and multiply it by a matrix. Okay, so scalar multiplication is a scalar or a number times a matrix, and matrix multiplication is a matrix times a matrix. Alright, so what is scalar multiplication? Well, the product of a scalar, k, okay, number k, and a matrix A is the matrix that we label Ka, in which each element is k times the product of the corresponding element of A. Now that might sound confusing, but actually it's really quite simple. Let's look at an example. Find the product of 5 times this matrix. So this is a scalar multiplication. All we do is we multiply each entry in that matrix by 5. Okay, 5 times 4 is 20, 5 times 6 is 30, and so on. Get minus 5, 50, minus 35, and 15. Okay, this is the product of 5 times this matrix. This is a scalar multiplication that we did. And it's actually really pretty simple. Okay, it's not a difficult process. The negative of a matrix A is the matrix -1, that scalar, -1 times A, which is obtained by multiplying each element of A by -1. Okay, and it's denoted by this, -A. Okay, so find -A if A is equal to this. Well, if A is that, -A is just -1 times A. So we're going to take every entry in here and multiply it by -1. We'll get -7, 4, -5 in the top row, -2, -9, sorry, that's a 9, and +2 in the bottom row. Okay, so taking the negative of a matrix is very simple. You just change the sign of each entry in the corresponding matrix. Now, a matrix consisting of only zeros is called a zero matrix and is denoted by this capital O here. Okay, now when we say a zero matrix, why do we say a zero matrix as opposed to the zero matrix? Well, this is a 2 by 2 zero matrix. Okay, there are other kinds of zero matrices though. For example, you could have a 2 by 4. This is a 2 by 4, right? There's 2 rows, okay, and there's 4 columns. Okay, this is a 2 by 4 zero matrix. Okay, so any matrix that has all zeros in it is called a zero matrix. Okay, let's look at some properties of zero matrices and negative matrices. So let's suppose A and B are any m by n matrices, and let O be the m by n zero matrix. Okay, then A plus -B, it turns out that's the same thing as A minus B. Okay, A plus the matrix -B is the same as A minus B. And A plus -A is the zero matrix. Okay, just take any matrix you want, try it, A, and then add to it -A, and you'll see you get the zero matrix. Also, A plus the zero matrix is equal to A. And similarly, the zero matrix plus A is equal to A. Okay, so these are some basic properties of negatives of matrices and also the zero matrix.